Hi everyone, it's Eleanor. So this video, I'm sure I mentioned in my previous video that I have taken some leave, and that started after work last night. I took a week, but with weekend and a public holiday, I actually have 10 days, and I'm not going anywhere. I am staying at home. I am resting. I am studying a little bit. And I'm going to read a lot because my to be read pile is getting ridiculously out of control. It's currently 1.5 double stacked bookshelves. So I thought, and I've been in a bit of a slump lately, which I also mentioned in my last video. So I thought what I would do would be to raid my TBR for books that aren't hard. So fun books, short books, books that should go quickly, children's books, things that I can read and hopefully read as much as possible in the next week. I have a stack because I think part of my problem is that I'm reading some really good books, but they require a lot of mental energy that I just haven't had recently. So to get back into the reading groove and to try and make a dent in my TBR, I have 3 stacks, 3 very large stacks of books that I've just pulled off the shelf that I don't have to stick to these books. It's not a TBR like that, but these are the books that I am more likely to read this week because they're fun, they're short, they're quick to read. Well, I hope they will be. So yeah, I'll hopefully go through this pretty quickly, but we'll see how we go. So the first, I'll start with short fiction, and I would like to finish Defying Doomsday, edited by Tsana Dolichva and Holly Kench from 12th Planet Press. I've talked about this on the channel before. I'm over halfway through it, so I would like to try and finish it because short fiction, I can get through that pretty quickly. The only other short fiction that I've sort of put on my list, although I do have a lot of anthologies on my shelves, is I am 3 or 4 issues behind on Uncanny Magazine, so if I find any further need for short fiction, I will probably have a go at those. There are a couple of books that I have on my Kindle that are possibilities. So they are Without a Summer by Mary Robinette Kowal, which is the 3rd book in her Glamorous History series, which has been often described as Pride and Prejudice with magic. I read the first 2 books. I loved the first 2 books. They're romantic and funny and light. So that 3rd book's been sitting on my Kindle for a while, so perhaps I'll have a go at that. And also I have Poison or Protect, which is a novella by Gail Carriger, which is set in her steampunk werewolf and vampire and ghost universe, and is a sort of a romantic novella involving one of the characters from the Finishing School series as an adult. My apologies, there appears to be a helicopter flying around, so please ignore that if you can hear it. But yeah, so that novella is an adult novella, and so that also might be something to do. I also probably I haven't downloaded any of it yet, but Tansy Randa Roberts has recently been publishing ebooks of her short fiction that she's been doing on her podcast. And because I'm a Patreon supporter of hers, she sent me links to those, so I might have a look at some of those as well. I have one book from the library that I just went and picked up this morning. My best friend Yannicka recommended this series to me this week, but I think I already knew about it because it was marked as want to read on my Goodreads. But the book I have is Just One Damned Thing After Another by Jodie Taylor. This is the first book in the Chronicles of St. Mary's, and from what I understand, it's time travel and historical research using time travel and all sorts of hijinks. Yannicka wants me to read it because she wants someone to square over the cricket references with, but yeah, so that sounds like a lot of fun, travelling through time, you know, researching mysteries of history, with a dollop of crazy and a dollop of, you know, Englishness. So sounds really good. So hopefully I might get a chance to read that. That is a library book, so it'll probably I probably will get to this, I think. Then I have some children's literature that some of it are rereads of old. I've got some secondhand copies of stuff that I loved as a child and picked up secondhand copies as an adult that I want to reread, as well as some new stuff. So there is Gemma Alone and, sorry the light's a bit dodgy there, Gemma Alone and Goodbye Gemma by Noel Streatfeild. These are book 3 and book 4 of the Gemma series. I loved the Gemma series. I don't think it's in print right now. I had a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, I can't remember, but I actually had to search really hard to find copies of all 4 books because all the major websites didn't have them. I actually had to, you know, really search on some sort of like on Fish Pond and stuff to find them. So they're books about Gemma, and I haven't got around to reading book 3 and book 4 again yet. So Gemma is a young girl who was a movie star as a child and is sent to live with her serious dad cousins who are all very musically talented, and one of her cousins is a dancer as well. And it's their adventures living in a small town as students and like young children who have a love of the performing arts and the stuff that they go through. And Gemma learns a lot about, you know, she falls in love with stage acting, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, looking forward to reading those again. And Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is probably my favourite Roald Dahl book. I love the movie from the 90s, and I haven't seen the musical that Tim Minchin wrote, but I do own the soundtrack and I listen to it a lot. So I recently managed to find a secondhand copy of Matilda, so I might reread that because, you know, girls fighting, you know, oppressive overlords with the power of their brain. Gotta love it. And then there's a few sort of new ones, new children's books. Well, not new, but I recently picked up a copy of Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I've probably read this at some stage in the past, but I'd like to reread it again. I have, fortunately, The Milk by Neil Gaiman. I haven't read a lot of Neil Gaiman. In fact, I only really came across him when he started writing Doctor Who episodes, although I knew the name. So I picked that up a couple of years ago, I think, which is also a children's book, so that might be a quick read. And the last children's book I have on my list is The Girl Who Soared Over Fairyland and Cut the Moon in Two by Kathleen Valenti. I've read the first 2 books of this series, the Fairyland series, and I loved them, and I've had this sitting on my shelf for a couple of years now, and somehow I've never got to it, so maybe I'll get to it this week. Now there's a whole bunch of other books. I have one non-fiction book on the pile. Like I said, I'm not sticking to this, so if I want to read some other like a biography or something, I could. But I really need to get to Letters to Tiptree. This is edited by Alexandra Pierce and Elisa Krasnostein, who I know, who are members of Galactic Suburbia, and it's a 12th Planet Press book, and it was released last year to celebrate the 100th birthday of Alice Sheldon, also known as James Tiptree Jr. And it's basically a whole bunch of fans and people that have been affected by the work of James Tiptree Jr. and they've written her letters, and they've also republished some of her own correspondence as well. And I've been talking about this for ages. I've had it in my hands for ages. This is a really, really important book. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, so hopefully I'll get a chance to start this week. And now we have a whole bunch of other fiction. You have to excuse me for reaching down to get stuff because there are just piles. I couldn't all fit it all on my lap. So if I grab my first pile, and I'll hopefully go through these really quickly, I have My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brodie Ashton and Jodie Meadows, which is about Jane Grey. And there's my iPad doing something weird, shut up. So this is a really recent YA book, and Lady Jane Grey is my favourite historical character, so hopefully I'll get to that soon. I have Blood and Circuses by Kerry Greenwood. This is a Miss Fisher's murder mystery book. I sort of tend to buy these one at a time and not buy the next one until I've read the previous one that I bought. So this one is the next one on my list. So I really love the TV series, and yeah, they're fun reads as well. I have Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I have seen the movie and loved the movie. So I asked, this was on my Christmas list last year and one of my brothers bought it for me. So hopefully I'll get a chance at that. This is one of his fantasy stories. I also have Magic's Promise and Magic's Price by Mercedes Lackey, which are the book 2 and book 3 in the Last Herald Mage trilogy. Of course, I read the first book, or reread the first book, last month, and I'm sorry, there's another helicopter if you can hear that. So hopefully I'll get a chance, maybe I'll get a chance to read the next 2 books and finish that series and take them off my TBR. What else do I have? I have Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, which was the most recent Magical Space Pussycats book. I've only ever read one Anne McCaffrey, but this is the first in the Dragons of Pern series, so, you know, that shouldn't be too hard to read if I want to read that. I have Newt's Emerald by Garth Nix. So this is one of Garth Nix's most recent books, and it's a kind of Regency sort of caper and with magic, which, you know, sounds up my alley. I'm pretty sure this was also in one of my recent book hauls. I also have The Book of Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. Now this might not be fun so much, but it's quite short, and Elizabeth from Books and Pieces was raving about it recently, and so I picked it up this week. So, and it also fits into my Read Authors of Colour challenge for this year, so maybe I'll pick up that. And I have Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Christoph, which it's thick, but it's not a lot of text, and I've seen it raved about all over BookTube since I started watching earlier this year, so I might have a look at that. And one more pile. I have Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett, one of his Discworld books that I bought recently. I have Ruby Red by Kirsten Gear, which my best friend gave me for Christmas a few years ago and I haven't got to. I don't know a lot about it, but I understand it's a sort of time travel-y paranormal romance, the first book in the series, so I might finally give that a go. I have the novelisation of Star Wars The Force Awakens by Alan Dean Foster. I haven't yet read any of the new Star Wars novels, and there's a few that I really want to try, but because I bought the novelisation first, I kind of want to restrain myself until I've read this, so I might finally read this because it will hopefully have a lot more detail about minor characters and stuff, which I would love. And this has been on my pile for a while. It's a 12th Planet Press novella duo, so it is A Siren Beat by Tansy Rayner Roberts, which is a sort of fantasy story set in Hobart, and it is Roadkill by Robert Shearman, which, from what I know about Robert Shearman, will probably terrify me, but it's only a little novella. Like, the book's really small, so novella short story type thing. Hopefully, so I might finally read that. Also by Tansy Rayner Roberts, I have the Mocklaw Omnibus, published by Fablecroft. These are the first 2 books in the Mocklaw Chronicles, which were originally published by a major publisher, and the publisher dropped the series before the third book was published. Fablecroft published the 3rd book in Black Magic a few years back, which also stands alone as well as being the 3rd book in the series. So I've read in Black Magic. I haven't read the first 2 books, but they were recently re-released with this really pretty colour, and it's all about Casa Daggersharp, who's a lady pirate with magic. And it's Tansy's work, so I will probably love it, and I would really like to pick this up. Only a few more to go, folks. I have Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which I picked up after I read Fangirl a couple of months ago. And this is actually the sort of a version of the story of the book series that the character in Fangirl is obsessed with. So it's a fantasy, so hopefully I will enjoy that. I have, again, probably not fun, but I am unlikely to put it down once I start reading it, is Who Killed Sherlock Holmes by Paul Cornell. This is the 3rd Shadow Police novel. I love this series. It's urban fantasy, it's police procedural, it's set in London, and the helicopter's back. This is really annoying. I've got no idea what's going on, but this series tends to be books that I pick up, I don't stop reading. The 2nd book I read in the airport and on the plane back from Perth last year, and literally I was reading for 4 or 5 hours straight, and it was amazing. So this is actually, I don't think, possibly not as long as the previous books, but yeah, so really looking forward to that. And finally, if I get time, oh, the pile just fell over. If I get time, there is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, the play written by John Tiffany and Jack Thorne, based on a story by J.K. Rowling. So again, it's a play, so hopefully it won't take me very long to read if I pick that up. So yeah, those are the books on my maybe I'll read them in the next 10 days. I would hope to read a lot of them. I could very well just read some other stuff as well. Like, I've been thinking I might do some Jane Austen rereads. So I'm not limited to that list, which is a very long list. This video is already 15 minutes long. But hopefully I will report back to you next weekend saying I've made a lot of progress on my TBR shelves. So yeah. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about on here that I might want to start with, and I shall hopefully go see you soon, and I'm off to pick a book to start with. Bye.